With us. Hi, folks. This is Alex Jones. I'm looking for people that have the wisdom to spot savings, opportunity, and recognize risk. Saving means to make money. The Cal-Ben Pure Soap Company can save you thousands of dollars and give you good old-fashioned real soaps that are triple concentrated and twice as good as what you're using now. Soaps made from vegetable and coconut oils that contain no useless dyes, perfumes, deodorants, or antibacterials. Your risk is the hundreds of hazardous toxic detergents that give you rashes, itching sores, and deteriorating clothing called lint. If you want something better, if you want something you've never had before, you have to do something you've never done before. Getting a free catalog is easy by calling 800-340-7091 or see Cal-Ben on the web at 5starsoap.com. Take charge of your health now by calling 800-340-7091 or see Cal-Ben on the web at 5starsoap.com. A very wealthy U.S. citizen is predicting that in 2011, we will witness the most important day in America in more than 50 years. He says it will change everything about our lives. The way you shop, travel, invest, educate your children, and even how you take care of your health and your own family. Now, this man has made some outrageous predictions over the years. The crazy part is, he's usually right. You see, he predicted the collapse of GM, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and America's biggest mall owner, General Growth Properties. In fact, Barron's called his work a dire prophecy. Recently, he created a video, which you can watch online for free, detailing his biggest and most important prediction yet. And it's a real eye-opener. I can't stress this enough. You should at least watch this free video online today. He explains everything you need to know, including simple steps you can take to protect yourself. You can find the video at www.endofamerica3.com. That's endofamerica, the number 3.com. Watch the free video at www.endofamerica3.com. That's endofamerica3.com. Hello, friends. Alex Jones here. You all know I've worked for years with Steve Shank and eFoods Direct. I have eFoods for my own emergency food supply. You know, Steve, life is different now for all of us, isn't it?
Very different. People are using this great food to survive the present hurricane season, and we've already had $40 billion worth of damage from floods, storms, quakes, and droughts. And that's just the first 8 months of this year. Natural disasters are newsworthy, but only touch a few of us Americans. The huge issue of the Greatest Depression is on everyone's mind. The unemployment, the loss of homes, lost businesses, and skyrocketing food costs are hitting every American. So everyone needs food security.
Folks, this month you will get free shipping on every food order from eFoods Direct. That's right. Every order gets free shipping starting September 6th. Get stocked up with the best storable foods out there with eFoods Direct and be prepared for any emergency before it happens. To take advantage of this special, call 800-409-5633 or go to efoodsdirect.com/Alex.
The Genesis Communications Radio Network proudly presents The Alex Jones Show, because there's a war on for your mind.
Private Joker is silly and he's ignorant, but he's got guts, and guts is enough. That's the Master Sergeant, Drill Sergeant in Full Metal Jacket, Stanley Kubrick film. And I don't think Ed Asner's silly and ignorant, but he certainly has guts, and guts is enough. I'm not just nice to him because he's famous and an icon. I respect him because I know socialists out there like Ed Asner who really mean well. And I try my best to communicate with him and to try to educate him. You know, the last time he was on, 3 years ago, he brought up multiple members of his family who, after taking MMR shots, became autistic. And I can't tell you how many hundreds of families I've talked to on air, off air, on the street who don't even know who I am. I'll be sitting there at a park or at a hotel in a hot tub or at a church visiting family, and they'll start talking about their autistic child who's sitting there in the corner nodding up and down or playing with their fingers. You can tell they're autistic. And I'll say, when did this begin? Well, Bobby was, Billy or David, or Tom was 18 months old, and he got his third round of shots, and he had a convulsion in the back of the car. And he was talking and running and walking, and he never talked again. Or, yeah, we got a third round of shots, and he was basically unconscious for a couple days. He had blood coming out of his nose. And We took him to the hospital, and they tried to take him away from us and said that we must have shook him because he had blood on the brain. Or, yeah, we got him the third round of shots. It hurts boys a lot worse because their blood-brain barrier isn't as strong as girls. Any medical doctor will tell you girls are about twice as tough as a boy. Not mentally, generally, physically. Women are tough as nails. So that's why they live longer. Women generally can take higher levels of poison than men because they are designed to grow another human and to have a baby and to go through that. In all mammal species, women, the female is a lot tougher than the male. And it's really hurt our boys bad. Now, Gardasil is a little gift to girls. But, you know, talking to Ed Asner earlier, I could see the propaganda at work on him. He's seen some of my films. You know, he likes them, but like Terror Storm and things like that. I know he's probably listening right now. So I'll just communicate to Ed Asner and others like him right now. Just like he doesn't agree with everything Ron Paul says, but he admires him and thinks he's a breath of fresh air because he's real. And he's coming against the establishment from a different angle. Total liberty. Almost anarchy. And you've got Asner on the other end with this idea of, you know, the greater welfare, general welfare clause. Different perspectives, but both men believe in what they're saying and doing. It's the globalists that manipulate. You heard him talk about Warren Buffett earlier, coming out and saying, hey, I should pay more tax. Well, turns out Warren Buffett, if you go back a decade ago, lobbied, and this has come out, to change the laws and have loopholes to not pay the tax. What he wants is more money for more banker bailouts for banks he owns. He needs to raise taxes to get that. But see, expert politicians like Warren Buffett, and that's what he is, know how to play an Ed Asner and play a Republican on the other end of the controlled spectrum. They know how to put out messages that are going to manipulate well-meaning and intelligent people like Ed Asner. You've got to really study this stuff, and that's why this radio show is such an important brain trust. You know, Ed even said to me during the break, he said, no, I like to hear the show. I learn a lot. He said, I'll be happy to come back on sooner. And, of course, he was also just being gracious, but we really do have something to offer here. It's not just that Ed Asner's bad or Ron Paul's bad or Ron Paul's good and Ed Asner's bad or vice versa. It's that they see things through a different rose-colored glasses. And it doesn't mean each and every one of us is wrong or right. It means our hearts are right. Now we've got to figure out how the globalists are manipulating our good intentions and co-opting it. I'm going to be honest with you. I was moved so strongly this morning spiritually that with a feeling of absolute mission and crystal clarity and understanding of what I need to do and what my responsibility is, that I almost didn't come in to do the show. And then dealing with office issues, you know, driving in, dealing with stuff, I lost that essence of clarity. I mean, I still have it, but it's like looking into water that was crystal clear 300 feet down, and now I can't see the bottom. It's still pretty clear, but I can't see the bottom. And that happens so much on this radio show. I read hundreds of news articles, do all this research, get up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., stay up late at night researching, and then I get up here on air, and how do I bring all this clarity and all these thousands of points, because the mind can move so fast with all the interconnected knowledge. They call that, I guess, wisdom. And then how do I impart that to people? Because you've already got that knowledge. You're just not consciously able to map it and grasp it. That's why when you hear this show, it's not that I'm in a lot of cases teaching you something. I am illustrating something you already knew was there. Kind of like a bomber jacket your grandpa gave you from World War II. And you box it up when you move, you get busy, you forget about it, and 30 years later, you open up that trunk and you're like, oh my God, look at all these photos. Look at this bomber jacket of Granddaddy in World War II. You always knew it was there. But you'd forgotten. But you knew. You're like, how did I not remember I had this? And then you remember all the times that you were driving down the road or saw somebody else with a bomber jacket on at a football game and, hey, that looks like Granddaddy's jacket. But you didn't remember when you got home to go dig it out of the trunk. You've had those flashes, those gestalts of understanding. Dr. Wakefield, 3 different studies, it's now emerged, came out from, one of them in the British government, finding the exact findings he'd found a year before, but they didn't publish. He did real tests. He didn't engage in a fraud. They came out with a hoax and said that he had been discredited as a fraud and ran it everywhere. And the boldness of the hoax, somebody like Ed Asner, whose son and grandson, you heard him earlier, been damaged by this, who was angry and sure of it a few years ago, now said, well, no, that's been discredited. Because he doesn't want to hate the vaccine makers. He doesn't want to believe they're this evil. He wants to believe that, and it was made for him and all the other victims. Just like this latest hoax. Over the weekend, one of the independent, and that's in quotes, doctors, who it turns out is on the Merck payroll and on the big vaccine Bill and Melinda Gates bandwagon, came out and said, I'll give $10,000 to anybody that can show me proof that Gardasil is causing mental problems. A nice nebulous statement. And Aaron listed the tens of thousands CDC reports of adverse reactions, including epilepsy, convulsions, narcolepsy. I mean, it's all on the drug insert. But they don't care. That ran, I did a search this morning of it. That ran in thousands of newspapers last week and over the weekend, and NPR, CBS, NBC, ABC, saying, hey, a doctor says it's a hoax that Gardasil ever hurt one person. And if you can show one person was hurt by this mentally, their brain, I will give you $10,000. Well, he knows that there's a vaccine damage fund and the government quietly pays people off and makes them keep it secret as part of the agreement. And they know full well that it says on the insert it can cause this. That's how they get the liability protection. And they know full well there were deaths in the trials that were confirmed and that India didn't even allow widespread use. And they know full well you can go search YouTube and watch hundreds of local newscasts of girls dead, dying, convulsions, autoimmune diseases, and their own family doctors saying they had an autoimmune response. Within 5 hours of taking this, they had blood pouring out their nose, their genitals, every pore in their body. People becoming paralyzed, Guillain-Barré, narcolepsy, every form of brain damage you can imagine. And their answer is to come out and say, it's all been discredited. Michelle Bachmann with this one case of this woman who says it made her daughter. And Bachmann just said the woman told me it brain damaged her daughter. Now, going back 4 years ago in the trials, it's actually 5 years ago, 2006, with the deaths, there were, on average, hundreds of times adverse reactions. What were they? What did our news articles say and our links? It was always about autoimmune disorders. Now, what came out last week? A big company did a test of 13 different sub-manufacturers of Gardasil and found all of them had DNA of the virus mixed in with the RNA attached to the adjuvant, meaning that now that will bind with the body's DNA and trigger cancer in areas that the cervical cancer previously would not grow. By the way, the rarest form of cancer in the U.S., the lowest death rate. A very common one that, by the way, is connected to a buffer to more deadly cancers. If you have that type of cancer, you can pull the studies up, you have many times less chance of getting a lot of other cancers. It turns out that wart-causing virus causes some type of buffer to the other cancer viruses that they've been making common, formerly rare cancers in the vaccines. But listen, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get into all of this in the next hour. I'm going to give the number out now. I just want to take calls. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. We also got the arrest on Wall Street. Stay with us.